back at beautiful American Airlines Center. The 55th All-Star Game, as mentioned, with Commissioner Gary Bettman. There's a band, obviously, playing for the fans here, so it'll be a little tough to hear, Gary. But as I was saying to you, your owners, after all you did for them, the market valuations are through the roof, and they would not give you your schedule.
You know, I think a lot of is being made out of this. We know, particularly in the West, that there's some dissatisfaction with the schedule, and it's something we're going to deal with. But the fact is, we voted for this. I think every club, or just about every club, voted for it a year and a half ago, understanding there was a 3-year rotation. And a lot of clubs felt it was only fair to get through the rotation before making a change, because some clubs have had the benefit and some clubs have had the burden of dealing with it the way it is. I ultimately believe there will be a change to everybody's satisfaction.
Oh, well, there you go. I was going to get to that, but since you said that, so a year from now, because it is important. When you were in the NBA and everything was roses, when we suddenly had Johnson versus Bird, how often do you know that they met during the regular season? It's only twice, once each way, but at least they met, right?
Well, but the fact of the matter is, we're only dealing with 5 teams that every club doesn't get to see in any given year, and that's something that ultimately can be adjusted. You know, we have other issues to deal with. Hopefully Pittsburgh won't have to move. You know, we were dealing with the issue. It's something that the media has given a lot of attention to, but it was really still a little premature for us to be focusing on it, particularly if we're in the unenviable situation of having to move a team, which could happen. We're hoping it doesn't. Right. So I think the timing wasn't right. Everybody should be patient.
Well, let's just update Pittsburgh then. Ed Rendell said today, from what I understand, that he met with Ron Burkle, and now he's extremely optimistic. Is that true?
Well, I haven't spoken to the governor, Ron Burkle, today. I spoke to Ron yesterday. Obviously, everybody would like this club to stay in Pittsburgh. That's where it belongs. But the club needs a new building. And if the building becomes a reality on terms that make economic sense for the team to be in Pittsburgh, there's no reason for it to move. And that's what we're hoping for.
Could Winnipeg support the NHL?
Under the new CBA, we haven't studied it, but I wouldn't rule it out.
Okay, you've already promised us that you'll address the schedule to everybody's satisfaction, but would you consider expanding back into Canada, into Winnipeg, and let's say Halifax, and then you'd have a 32-team league, 8 in Canada in 1 division?
You know, if I said we were going to expand, you and everybody would start yelling at me again. The fact of the matter is, it's not something that we currently have a plan to do. We have some work. We're heading in the right direction. We still have some work to do with some franchises. I think the foundation's strong. The partnership with the players is great. And even though we haven't done the homework, I believe in an ideal world, under the partnership we have with the players and with the salary cap, that Winnipeg probably could support an NHL team.
But here's a proposal for you. It's just pie in the sky, no doubt about that. Tell me, so what I'm suggesting is we go into Winnipeg and Halifax. I honestly think the Maritimes could do it. The only question, you explain to me if you would, corporate support versus the individual fan, because that's what's killing the Nashville Predators right now.
Absolutely right, and it's an interesting thing. Every successful franchise that really works well in a market needs the support of the individual fans. Lord knows that's the most important, but you need the business community. Nashville has the highest proportion of individual season ticket holders as opposed to corporations, and the reason that their attendance is a little softer than we'd like to see is they need more support from the business community.
So is that rule out Halifax and Winnipeg then? Is that a problem?
No, because you have to look at every situation individually. As I said, we haven't looked specifically at any new markets. If we were in a position that we felt it was appropriate, we'd give it a good hard look.
But here's why it would be attractive. Let's put the board up again, you guys. And the one thing you'll find interesting, obviously I had the Canadian division. What I did with this is align more horizontally than vertically, only to make it fair, because the West Coast teams and Halifax, obviously the travel will be horrendous in the Canadian division. My suggestion here is you play 5 against your own division and 2 each against the rest of the
problem with horizontal versus vertical is time zones for travel and television back to your market. Because Eastern teams, if they're playing a lot of games in the West, don't get the games to come back till 10:30 at night. So it's an interesting idea. I need more than 10 seconds to study it. But what's interesting to me is you actually think we have enough talent to expand.
Oh, absolutely. Always have thought that, well, if anything, that what is a bit of a problem is payroll, the cap. Obviously, it goes without saying, if Tampa is going to commit to Richard, St. Louis, and LeCavalier the way they have, that's where the talent problem is. And I wonder what you think. I know the fans love it.
That's a matter of individual team cap management. What's fascinating, though, is look at the competitive balance this year. 27 teams as of today are either in the playoffs or within 10% of making the playoffs, and there are only 3 teams that are, well, quote, out of it, and they can come back. That's what you want to offer for your fans in every market, the hope that your team can make the playoffs and win it all.
Are your fans telling you that in your research?
Overwhelmingly.
Because, you know, with the NBA, that's clearly where they went.
Well, no, I don't think their competitive balance is as good as ours. We're more like the NFL right now in terms of competitive balance.
But in the NFL, you got to sell 8 home games, right?
Well, that's a different issue.
Right.
Although
I wouldn't even compare the NFL.
Attendance is fascinating because I know a lot of people have made it an issue. Obviously, we have some markets that are down and some that are up. That's the way it always is every year. Some teams up, some down, performance related, but teams like St. Louis or Chicago or Boston, those are great hockey markets. They'll be back.
Will they be back, though, in this system?
Oh, absolutely. No question about it. They'll get stronger. The fans will be back. But what's fascinating is this year, we're about 80 fans a game off of last year's all-time record. And this January was the best January we've ever had to date, better than last January when we set the record.
The only thing on that, Gary, I would say is I would worry about fans that don't show up. Detroit's probably the best example. We see it all the time. They've sold the seat, but the fan is...
Well, but what happens is, I think that fans who are used to a high level of performance pick and choose a little bit more, and Detroit continues to have a high level of performance. They've got another terrific team.
You're right, but when I look at that roster in Colorado in the old days with Blake and Foote and...
But the league wasn't nearly as healthy as it is now.
No.
We have most of our franchises making money or breaking even. Those that are losing money are losing less money. And when you look at the league as a whole, we are much healthier as a league. We're not talking about franchises going out of business. We're not talking about teams not being able to retain their talent. Look at the Canadian franchises. They may have never as a group been healthier than they are right now.
Well, it's interesting because Toronto, their market valuation, you can maybe explain to me, but it's $322 million. They're worth, according to Forbes.
Those market valuations are absurd. First of all, they don't have the data, and Toronto is one of the strongest franchises in any sport.
Well, and the only thing about that is it may be financially solid, but they are nip and tuck to make the playoffs this year. They missed, so did Vancouver last year.
That's
Things
exciting.
are a lot rosier. That's exciting?
That's exciting.
Missing the playoffs is exciting? I think you like making money is exciting.
But you know why it's exciting? Because fans who root for any team shouldn't believe that one team's just going to be able to dominate because it spends more. Every one of our fans in every market knows that their team has a shot, and that's the way it should be. That's what we owe to the fans.
Yeah, and the fans will tell you that. There's no doubt about it.